Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to Pistons Talk post game show. Your Detroit Pistons just defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers in their final preseason game of the final score of 108 to 92. The Pistons finished the preseason 3-2 with the winning record, so that is something positive they can go into the season with. They started the preseason um, or I should say they ended the preseason with a winning record, 3-2. They played 5 games. But before we kind of get into these quarters, break down the quarters, talk about some key points from each individual quarter, I do want to give you guys just a little PSA for the podcast that we usually have on Sunday. We're going to actually be doing it tomorrow at 2:30 with Detroit Pistons beat reporter Corey Woods. Again, it's going to be tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time because I know there are some people out there that do listen to the podcast that aren't on the Eastern time zone. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little PSA there. We'll be talking about Corey Woods tomorrow, do some preseason stuff, more in-depth stuff. But let's get into this game, you guys, because I'm sure you guys want to talk about this game. You want to talk about how the Detroit Pistons look tonight in their final preseason game against JB Bickerstaff's old team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So let's get into the first quarter. One thing that I wrote down in my notes tonight, you guys, was Jalen Duren again being active. Now, we'll get into the starters and how much minutes they actually played versus Cleveland's because I thought that was very eye-opening tonight. Jalen Duren in the first quarter was very active. This is another game where he's attempting to protect the paint, protect the rim. Had a block. I think he had 3 blocks, if I do remember correctly, against Golden State. Had a really nice block in the first quarter, protecting the rim. And I think that's something that a lot of us want to see Jalen Duren do this season is be more active around the painted area, be more active of protecting the rim. Because I think if the Pistons really have that play-in tournament aspirations, even Bally Sports tonight, like George Blaha and Greg Kelser were kind of like talking about it, like that should kind of be the goal. I think if the Pistons want to make the play-in tournament, the most important piece, in my opinion, for them to make that is Jalen Duren playing on both sides of the floor. And I think if he's blocking shots like he has these past 2 preseason games for a full, 82 games in the season, the Pistons have a very good chance of trying to make the play-in tournament this season. But really liked what I saw of Jalen Duren tonight. Very active in the very limited minutes that he did play. Again, the starters really did not play too many minutes tonight in the final preseason game. Transitioning over to Tobias Harris, he was hitting 3-point shots in the corner, and I think that's something that a lot of Pistons fans like. We know what we're getting out of Tobias Harris. You're getting a 3-level scorer. You're getting a guy that can shoot threes, has a mid-range game, can take it to the basket. So Tobias was hitting threes, and I'm sure Cade is actually kind of relieved if he kicks it out to the corner. Tobias is more than capable of hitting 3-point shots, and that's what he did tonight. Really liked what I saw of the defense as well. In the first quarter, I think they were up 21-11, and there was like 6 minutes to go in the quarter. Really liked what I saw of them. First like 5 minutes or so into that first quarter, really active. But what happened kind of towards the end is Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs went on a 14-2 run. And then we saw the all bench units, and I want to put Henry's comment on the screen because we saw this last year with Monty Williams. We saw like that all bench unit um, kind of rotation. You can call it like a hockey switch, hockey lineup, if you will. I didn't like it. Now, I know it's preseason. Maybe I'm overreacting to it, but I thought that second unit, they didn't really mesh well together. I didn't really love Marcus Sasser playing the backup point guard minutes tonight. I know the first 4 preseason games, we saw Jaden Ivey kind of get staggered with Cade Cunningham, and Jaden Ivey was kind of being the backup guard on the second unit, kind of orchestrating the offense that way. But didn't really like what I saw out of the rotations. I'm assuming that's just a preseason thing because JB, out of all of the 5 preseason games, he really didn't do like the all bench units, kind of like what we saw Monty Williams do last year. That was his first time doing it. I'm assuming it was because it's the last preseason game. He's giving the guys on this roster that probably won't be on the Detroit Pistons roster a chance to play. But I really didn't like the all bench unit. I thought they kind of lost the Pistons the lead. There was a lot of turnovers. No one really out there that could set up the offense, in my opinion. That's what I saw in the first quarter. But Pistons end the first quarter with the Cavs leading 34-28. Transitioning into the second quarter, what I saw, what I wrote down in my notes was Ron Holland just being active. Like, he's a hooper at the end of the day. Like, the more I watch Ron Holland, the more I fall in love with him as a player and what he could possibly become. You know, he had a 3-point shot tonight, and to his shot, I know that's something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. I've talked about a lot with his shot with you guys. Is I think it's going to translate. I think it's just going to take a few years to develop, but the form looks good. He was really active, getting to the basket, playing defense tonight. Um, I feel like he's a player that I've talked about a lot during the preseason, and I'm happy that I've been able to talk about him. But he was really active in the second quarter. Simone Fontecchio as well. I do want to give a shout out. He led the team in scoring tonight with 18, and I was waiting for a Tech game where, if he wasn't the leading scorer, he was maybe the second or third leading scorer. But he was the leading scorer tonight, and it's good to see him knock some 3-point shots down because the first 4 preseason games seemed like his shot was a little bit off. But I was really happy to see him, kind of bounce back, have a good game going into the uh finishing the preseason strong, I should say, but really happy to see, Simone Fontecchio hit threes. Um, JB played a lot of the two-way guys as well tonight. You saw Donis Jenkins. We did waive Tosin Awoma, so I don't know what's happening there, but you saw Donis Jenkins. You saw some Exhibit 10 guys. You saw some third string starters out there like Paul Reed, who we'll talk about a little bit later. He played really well. And the Cavs had their starters out there, which I was kind of surprised by because they were playing like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen against basically our third stringers. And the third stringers were keeping pace with them like throughout the game. Obviously, when we went to halftime, Cavs led 61-60, but I was really impressed with just the determination, the defense, with our third stringers, our Exhibit 10 days, our two-way guys out there, just competing with starting caliber guards like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and forwards like I can't think of his name right now. Oh, Isaac Okoro out there. Like, I was really impressed with just the way they competed, and didn't give up on any play. But kind of going into the third quarter, only thing I really wrote down was just Simone Fontecchio, Paul Reed, uh, Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser rotations, and you kind of had a 10-day guy out there. That was kind of the rotation going into the third quarter. Again, like I said, last preseason game of the year. There wasn't really too much to really talk about in terms of the third quarter, but really liked what I saw to Paul Reed in the third quarter. I thought he got active. I thought the third quarter, Jared Allen was not respecting him as kind of like a mid-range shooter. He hit, back-to-back mid-range jump shots right in his face. He was being, active down low in the post, scoring. Really like what I saw out of Paul Reed. And I don't really know what his role is going to be on this team because you're going to carry 3 centers going into this year. You have Jalen Duren. Isaiah Stewart's been playing backup center throughout the preseason, and you have Paul Reed. It's kind of like a head scratcher, but I think it's a good problem to have because it's a long season. You never know. You might want to, play Paul Reed some nights over Isaiah Stewart and vice versa, but really liked what I saw out of Paul Reed in the third quarter and in the preseason as a whole. Really liked the acquisition by Trajan Langdon this summer. Transitioning to the fourth quarter, and then we'll put some of your questions and comments on the screen, and we can wrap this podcast up, you guys. Tolo Smith, as you guys know, he was on the Detroit Pistons Summer League roster. He actually broke his hand tonight, so that really sucks. He's going to be out, I guess, a couple of months. That's what George and Greg said on the broadcast. Didn't even see where he did break his hand, but prayers to him, man. Like that sucks. Because he's a really active center, and I'm sure he was trying to fight for a roster spot, whether it was a two-way spot or just even a G League spot in the NBA. So praying for him. I didn't even see like where he broke his hand, but it sucks when you see these two-way guys trying to fight and they get an injury like that. Lamar Stevens, though, man, I think he's a sneaky guy to possibly get a two-way spot, possibly make the roster. He was really active, finishing around the basket. He had a dunk on JT Thor, which I really liked. I know Kate Cunningham liked it too. Really liked his activeness tonight. And defensively, I think there's something there with him where maybe you take a look at him as the final roster spot. The Pistons do have one two-way spot open, and they also have one standard contract open. But really liked what I saw out of Lamar Stevens tonight. Just a really, really active player. Donis Jenkins, the Pistons two-way point guard. He had a really good game. Really excited to see how he does with the Pistons this year and the Motor City Cruise. But I think he's going to spend most of his time with the Motor City Cruise because they do not have a point guard currently. But really liked to see him out there. I liked what I saw out of him, hitting some threes, setting guys up, playing some good defense, being really active. Um, Going up against centers that are a good like 5-6 inches taller than him and still blocking their shot. Like I really love Donis Jenkins. I know you guys probably know this. Like I was raving about him in the summer league at just the way he plays and his pace and just kind of dissecting defenses down with his playmaking. But really like what I saw out of Donis Jenkins. And one more stat, and then we'll get into your comments tonight. And I thought this was a very cool stat. So the Pistons played 18 players tonight, guys. 17 of those 18 players that checked into the game scored at least 1 point. So I thought that was really cool. Again, final score for your Detroit Pistons. They won 108-92, finishing their preseason record at 3-2. But I want to transition over into answering some of your questions or some comments you have about the game, because I'm sure you guys do want to talk about this game because I've been rambling on for 12 minutes. But let's get into the comments that you guys are leaving right now if you are watching live on YouTube, because I do like to try to answer each and every one of you guys. This comes from Adam Gray. He obviously had no intention in playing the starters tonight. No, I think you're right, Adam. I think it's the last preseason game. I know some people, when they saw the all bench lineup, they kind of like got PTSD from last year. And that's to be like expected because like, if you actually watched last year, you watched all 82 games, like Monty Williams was doing just like all bench lineups, and you kind of got like PTSD watching that. I agree with you. I think what they were doing is just giving, the guys that probably aren't going to make the Detroit Pistons roster a chance because there's other NBA teams that might want to give two-way spots out. I don't really think this is going to be a case with JB where he's doing all bench lineups. I think he's actually going to keep a pretty tight rotation. I'd be surprised if it was any more than 8 to 9 deep personally. I think he's going to have a very tight rotation. I think he understands who he can play, who he can't. And I'm excited to see how they do against the Pacers opening night. I'm going to that game. I haven't been to an opening night game in quite some time, but I do agree with you, Adam. Was glad to see Ted show out and remind the coaching staff he's a valuable piece. Yeah, same here. Same here. Or tech, and typo. Yeah, he kind of had just like first four preseason games. He was struggling a little bit. I thought he had an injury. I thought the injury was kind of bothering him still, but it was good to see him, go out there, make 3-point shots like we know that he can, and be productive. Because I think tech is a very important piece that maybe not a lot of people are talking about right now. I think if the Pistons really do want to make a play, and he's a key, whether you want to start him or a bench piece that has to be productive this season, in my opinion. Them winning preseason games is normally nothing, but it's good for them after last season. It gives them more hope going 3-2 rather than 2-3 or 1-4. The feeling of feeling winning again. Yeah, I 100% agree, Devon. Thank you for the comment. Um, I think when you win 14 games, to your point, winning gives you confidence. And you saw like Tobias, Jalen Duran, Cade Cunningham, like they were genuinely happy for like this preseason roster, like the Exhibit 10 days, the two-way guys. Like um, they haven't really experienced a whole lot of winning. So the fact that you won 3 games in the preseason when you only played five, I think that's very important. I also think if you kind of go into the last game when they played the Golden State Warriors and the Golden State Warriors bench beat our starters, I think a game like tonight, a bounce back game, was much needed for their confidence and their morale going into the season opener next week against the Indiana Pacers because they're a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference. So you're going to have to bring your A game. So winning tonight's game should give them a confidence boost going into the season. But I do agree with you, Devon. I think winning at the end of the day can really help not only each individual player, but the locker room as a whole, and just build that team chemistry. Cade needs to drop Tyrese Halliburton with the ankle breaker. Man, like if he does, like I'm sure everyone will go crazy. But yeah, the Pistons Pacers opening night next Wednesday is going to be a really good one. If you look at the Detroit Pistons first 10 games of the season, you guys, they're tough. We're going to be playing a lot of playoff teams, but after watching these guys in the preseason, I'm a little bit more positive, and I think this is going to be a team this year that we're going to be proud of. We're going to be excited to talk about each post game podcast that I'm going to be doing all season long with you guys. And I think going into the past couple of years during this rebuild, it's been really hard to find positive topics for you guys. Try to do a show each and every week, but I really like what JB's building here. I really like, Trajan, bringing in his guys, having a very good free agency and a pretty solid draft. Was kind of bummed that we didn't get to see Bobby Klintman. Hoping we get to see him maybe in the season opener. I don't know how serious his calf contusion is. He didn't play any preseason games. I thought we would have at least got to see him once, but hopefully it's nothing serious. But yeah, man, it's you can tell I'm excited because I can't even talk right now. Got a comment from Adam Gray. Biggest challenge is how do we get Reed some minutes? He's too good to ride the pine. Yeah, that's something that I'm going to talk tomorrow with Corey Woods because he has more of an opinion than I do. I don't know, man. Like he's active, he can defend, he can protect the paint a little bit. I really like him out of the dribble handoff offense that they were setting him up tonight. He can finish around the basket, hit threes, got a nice touch, 10, 15 feet out. Like I really, really like Paul Reed. I to your point though, Adam, I think he's too good to be a third string center, which I'm hoping JB gives him more opportunities to possibly, fill in for Stu if maybe Stu's not bringing it that night. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens the next couple of days, going up to the season, because there are teams out there that do need centers. There are teams out there that are probably going to be calling the Pistons about their backup centers because Isaiah Stewart's valuable. Well, we've talked about it before. A lot of teams always call about him. Paul Reed is valuable. The only reason why he's a Piston is because Philly couldn't retain him because they went out spending to get Paul George. But I really like Paul Reed. I really don't know what his future holds in Detroit in terms of playing time, but really like the acquisition. We got a question from Devon. Any news on Asar? I was only able to really watch one game. I know he didn't play. There's literally been no update with Asar Thompson. I just want to say that first and foremost. What I will say is I think he will play this year. It's just he has to go through the protocol with the NBA. And Trajan mentioned this during media day, Devon. If you didn't catch that uh, they've done everything, and it's up to the NBA and the league to clear Asar for him to play. Obviously, to your point, he did not play in the preseason whatsoever. We kind of saw Ron Holland uh, get the minutes that Asar probably would have gotten the preseason if he was available and healthy. But if there is news on Asar, your beat reporters will probably be one of the first people to report it. But as of right now, there's nothing to really talk about. He has blood clots. The NBA is just kind of going through this transition of waiting to clear him. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't want to give you guys false information, but um, we'll do a couple more comments and then we'll wrap it up because I'm going to uh, do a podcast tomorrow. Corey Woods, 2:30 p.m. It's different from a regular, podcasting time, which is usually on Saturday and Sunday at 7:30. But I'm really excited to talk to Corey. We're going to be talking about a lot of preseason and some JB Bickerstaff stuff as well. But really, really happy that the Pistons did finish this preseason off with the win. We'll do maybe one or two more comments and then wrap this up. I think Reed can't be traded. Yeah, there might be some stipulations where he can't be traded until a certain date. Devon, I think you are right there. Like I said, we'll do. There's some comments that I can't answer because you guys are kind of funny. But I'll try to do maybe one or two more comments. I don't really see too many more. If you guys are watching live on YouTube, but personally, I see some people saying trade Tim Hardaway Jr. and Stu. THJ is on the last year of a contract. I know he has struggled in the preseason. He did actually get the starting nod from JB Bickerstaff tonight. He's been in the starting lineup. Him and Malik Beasley have been in the starting lineup quite a bit. So that is something to kind of keep an eye on. Maybe he does that for the opening night starting lineup, but I don't know, Team Savant. Like, I think he has value. Tim Hardaway has value. I just don't know what you're going to get for him. Maybe, come December, contenders might want to kind of sniff around and see what the Pistons are willing to take for him. But I don't really think they're going to trade him before the season opener. I could be wrong there, but I think he's a veteran that they want to at least keep around for a couple of months. And if they can get something for him, I'm sure Trajan Langdon will do what best by the organization and try to get assets for him if he can. In terms of Stu, like, I'm conflicted because I think he still has value on this team. I don't know how Trajan or the new front office feels about him. He's played backup center, which I think is more of his role, kind of like an energy big, but teams have always called about him. Lots of contenders have always called about him. I think he has value. I just don't know what the asking price for him is. I know Troy Weaver had like a crazy asking price for him, but I think that's because that was one of his guys he drafted. But I don't really know what Trajan thinks of him. And I think a lot of you guys, you either like him or you don't. I happen to like him. I like the role that JB has given him as kind of like a backup energy big. But at the end of the day, if there's an offer out there to make the team better, or maybe you get draft capital, you do have to consider it. But I can understand why, people like you and fans like you maybe look to possibly move him because you feel you could get a backup center that maybe is better around the rim, maybe better at setting picks. I think he does have value, though. I do want to say that. He did like one more comment about Stu, and then like we can wrap this up. So I'm watching the game. I can't remember what quarter it was, but Fontecchio hit a three, and Stu's trying to like get position in the post, and he like shoved George Niang like onto the ground. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? But I don't know what George Niang did to him beforehand because the Bally's camera wasn't really focused on Isaiah Stewart and George Niang. They were more focused on Fontecchio making a three, but he kind of like tackled him. It's just like, man, like what's going on? But at the end of the day, I like Stu as a player. I just don't like him as a starter, and I've kind of voiced my opinion on that. You guys know that, but I appreciate you guys tapping in for the last 25 minutes at 10 o'clock at night on a what day is it? Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. But I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. and we're gonna have Detroit Pistons beat reporter Corey Woods on. So we're probably going to talk about the preseason more in depth, kind of talk about who's our MVP, who's the most underwhelming, some questions about JB Bickerstaff's rotations and all that good stuff. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you guys watching. We got 62 people in here. Truly appreciate it. But I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Like I said, keep repeating myself. I apologize. Peace, you guys.